Miami Dolphins mandatory minicamp has concluded, and it's time to look at who flashed and who might have struggled during the two practices. Yes, you heard that correctly. Only two practices. Head coach Mike McDaniel canceled the third one and only did a walkthrough. That would have been today, by the way, on Thursday, but Mike McDaniel only electing to have two practices, but we have to get into a couple winners and losers. I am Nic Rohloff. This is Dolphins Today by Chat Sports, and make sure you help us out and hit that sub button because we're going to have you covered on everything surrounding the Miami Dolphins, but we also got to take down the Chiefs Report and Steelers Talk in our June sub battle. We're trailing behind early, but it is very early. It's only the 6th or 7th day out here. I actually don't even remember what day it is at this point. 48 subscribers, they got over 50, so hit that sub button to stay locked in with everything surrounding the Miami Dolphins. All right, the first winner is Jaylen Waddle, the wide receiver, and he was an OTA winner because he got a massive contract extension, but the reason why he's a winner at mandatory minicamp is because what he actually did on the field. He has been absolutely dominant in the two practices that the Dolphins had. He could not be covered. And the thing that was so impressive to me is that he was really doing it by himself, which we'll talk about in just a second. But the two highlights that stood out, specifically from Wednesday's practice, he beat Cam Smith in 7-on-7 deep down the left side of the field, and Tua dropped it in the bucket perfectly during 7-on-7 workouts. And then later on in practice, when the Dolphins ran 11-on-11, he scored a 60-yard touchdown. Yep, that deep ball from Waddle is back. But this time, Mike White was at quarterback. Waddle beat Saran Neal, Patrick Mahomes, the rookie, and Cam Smith again. Those three were the closest DBs to Waddle on that 60-yard touchdown. But the thing that is so impressive to me about Waddle just taking the top off the defense is that maybe they aren't keying in on him because it's minicamp, but he was the only legit wide receiver out there. Tyreek Hill was not participating in 7-on-7 or 11-on-11. Same thing with Odell Beckham Jr. So it was Jaylen Waddle and some of these lesser-known wide receivers that are fighting to make the roster. For him to be that dominant against the top defensive players who all participating for the most part in the secondary, that shows to you that he is ready for that year 4 growth to maybe, instead of just eclipsing 1,000 yards, maybe ends up with 1,200 or 1,300 this season. But I will have to say this, though. The Dolphins' offense is a loser, and there's a lot of reasons why I think it's a loser, and I'm not telling you the sky is falling, this is going to be a disaster, but there are a couple reasons why the Dolphins' offense is a loser. One, they did struggle for the most part against the defense. The defense had an upper hand, specifically alongside the defensive line and offensive line. Shaq Barrett got in a couple times, which we'll talk about that, with no Bradley Chubb or Jalen Phillips participating in 7-on-7 or 11-on-11. But it is also because the starting quarterback, Tua Tagovailoa, is not participating in any 11-on-11 drills. He is participating in 7-on-7, but he is not doing the full 11-on-11 because of that contract extension. I'm not going to say issues, but the lack of there being an extension. He's kind of doing a non-holdout. He's not participating in the 11-on-11, but he is doing everything else. And it's not good for the Dolphins' offense because they can't really install anything new. And I know it's only minicamp, it's 2 practices, so I'm not going to try to make a big deal out of it. But head coach Mike McDaniel was not thrilled with Tua missing that portion of the 2 practices. He's obviously not going to throw him under the bus or anything like that, but he did just voice his displeasure with Tua not being there for 11-on-11, but there was also not Tyreek or Odell Beckham Jr., so really the entire first offense in terms of quarterback, wide receiver, weren't able to do any 11-on-11 work during minicamp. But let me know, and be honest with me down in the comment section, are you concerned about Tua not participating in the 11-on-11 drills? If you are concerned, type Y for yes. If you're saying, it's fine, it's only mid-June, early June, type N for no. We mentioned Shaq Barrett in the earlier portion of the video. He is also a winner, just like Jaylen Waddle. He was very disruptive in the Wednesday practice, and it's going to be key that he gets off to a hot start in the season, but as well as in training camp, getting used to this new defense from Anthony Weaver. Barrett almost had an INT on Skylar Thompson in the early portion of practice. He batted it down at the line of scrimmage, could not corral it as it was falling to the ground, but he did have a nice bat down. And then he also had a sack on the very first play of 11v11. So Barrett, who comes over from the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, being that third pass rusher behind Bradley Chubb and Jalen Phillips, getting off to a good start in early June. And that's big because, like I said, he will be leaned on heavily for this Dolphins defense. It's just with Bradley Chubb recovering from injury, Jalen Phillips recovering from a torn Achilles, you're not 1,000% certain that those two are going to be ready for week 1 against the Jacksonville Jaguars. So having the experience and the veteran leadership of Barrett to mentor Chop Robinson, Mohamed Kamara, but also play pivotal snaps late in games as a pass rusher, it's going to be absolutely key. And if he just continues to show what he can do, like he has done early in this minicamp, well, the Dolphins are going to have the best edge group in the NFL. Loser Skylar Thompson, and this one's a little disappointing for me because I thought he was the best quarterback for the Dolphins behind Tua in OTAs, but he might be losing his grip on that QB2 battle. I thought he had the edge, if you will, but doesn't look like that's the case anymore because Mike White actually had some really good moments during 11-on-11. We told you about the 60-yard touchdown pass to Jaylen Waddle, but then Skylar Thompson also had a couple incomplete passes, almost INTs, and Mike White might be flipping the switch, and he might be getting that QB2 status back on this Dolphins roster. Still think it would probably be best for Mike White to be cut because he will save the Dolphins $2 or $3 million in cap space, and I trust Skylar Thompson as QB2, but there is a legit possibility that Mike White is regaining that status as the quarterback right behind Tua on the depth chart. But you pick a QB2 for me. Do you still want it to be Skylar Thompson or do you want it to be Mike White? Let me know by typing their initials down below, ST for Skylar or MW for Mike White. Decent problem to have. They're both pretty solid. But could it be Gavin Hardison, the UDFA out of UTEP, who has a really strong arm, and he actually flashed some accuracy as well that makes me very intrigued in the UDFA quarterback. Reporter for Sports Illustrated who was there, boots on the ground, Alan Popart, had an interesting note on Gavin Hardison. He said that he was the winner of the QB competition that involved throwing the ball into a net into the corner of the end zone from the 10-yard line, so about a 15, 20-yard air pass, fade, if you will, and he went 3 for 3. So impressive work by the UDFA. I know it's not any game action, but showing off some accuracy because if he's able to combine accuracy with his already strong arm, I think he will be a very intriguing prospect for this Dolphins team that maybe they stash him on the practice squad this upcoming season. I am excited to see Gavin Hardison play in preseason. Big arm. If he showcases the accuracy he displayed during minicamp, he is going to be someone that makes some plays during the preseason games. Can he carve out a role and potentially grab that QB3 spot behind Skylar Thompson or Mike White if one of those two gets cut? I think it's a massive possibility. I'm excited to see what Gavin Hardison could bring to the table for the Miami Dolphins. Make sure you do get this Dolphins t-shirt combo, the orange, the aqua, $15 off right now at chatsports.com/DolphinsCombo. I got mine. You can either get it for yourself or, you know what, Father's Day is just a week away, so you can get it for your father if you haven't got a gift just yet. One more time, chatsports.com/DolphinsCombo. Rep the Dolphins, rep the 305 with the sweet t-shirt combo. Loser, Braylon Sanders, wide receiver, and well, his chance of making the roster just got a lot more difficult after a couple of rough practices at minicamp. Pair of drops this week, which is not ideal for any wide receiver trying to make a 53-man roster, specifically when you're on the outside looking in. We've talked in depth about how crowded this room is because you've got the big three. I think Malik Washington's a lock because he's just been so good out of Virginia. That 6th-round pick. Braxton Berrios, to me, is a lock for this roster as well due to his special teams value and his experience in the slot, which, to me, only gives one spot available on this room or 53-man roster at the wide receiver position, and it's going to be a battle between River Craycraft, Eric Ezukama, Taj Washington, and Braylon Sanders, who's trying to get into that competition. If you have a pair of drops during minicamp, well, you're already in the back seat. You're already on the outside looking in, and that does not help you one bit. Anthony Walker Jr., a new Dolphin who came over from the Cleveland Browns in free agency, he is a winner, and he was a winner during OTAs as well. He has had a very strong past 3 weeks, and he's made a fantastic first impression on this Dolphins coaching staff, and it probably made Chris Grier pretty happy that he went out and signed him. He's been absolutely everywhere in coverage. Walker has been one of the best coverage linebackers in the entire NFL over the past 2 seasons for the Cleveland Browns. That's what he was brought in to do for Miami behind David Long Jr. and Jordan Brooks, and Walker has absolutely shown the part, knocking down passes over the middle of the field, being on tight ends, being on running backs. He is going to be an excellent sub-linebacker for the Miami Dolphins. He also had what would be a sack. Obviously, you can't hit a quarterback in these type of practices, or let alone any practices on your own teams, but he would have had a sack. So if he's able to bring a little pass rushing ability too, to pair up with that coverage that he already brings to the table, Anthony Walker Jr. is an excellent linebacker 3, and he could form one of the best trios in the game at LB between him, Brooks, and Long. Final person we got to talk about on today's show, Kendall Fuller, the corner who is replacing Xavier Howard on this Dolphins roster after he was let go. Fuller now pairs up with Jalen Ramsey on the outside. He had a pair of nice pass breakups this week in minicamp, and Fuller is an excellent corner, man. He has a good career, good history, played well for Washington over the past couple seasons as well. And if we're just going to be honest here, the Dolphins have 2 top 15 corners in the NFL with Jalen Ramsey and Kendall Fuller. They were actually recognized by PFF as well, who is not the end-all be-all, which we always state, but they ranked Jalen Ramsey as the 6th best corner in the NFL entering 2024. They ranked Kendall Fuller as the 8th ranked corner in the NFL entering 2024. So getting national recognition, but we already know as Dolphins fans, those two are absolutely going to be nasty as a duo, and hopefully they can stay healthy and lock down opposing wide receivers all year long. Next time we'll see the Miami Dolphins on the practice field, well, training camp, fellas. Yes, you heard that correctly. No more practices for the offseason, about 5 or 6 weeks off between now and late July when the team comes together, starts preparing for the preseason, starts preparing for that September 8th Week 1 game against the Jacksonville Jaguars. We are just a few 5-6 weeks away from really getting to the thick of the NFL season. I'm pumped up, and I can't wait to get there. Which is why you need to be subscribed, because we're going to have you covered on everything surrounding the Miami Dolphins from now until training camp getting underway. And then once the NFL season does officially kick off, there will be no better place on YouTube for Dolphins coverage, watch parties for every game, weekly live shows as well. So hit that sub button. I'm Nic Rohloff. We'll have you covered here at Dolphins Today. I'll see you tomorrow with another video. Go Fins.